"Other men left me," said Apache girl, "and rancher took her to live with him vertical bar." Maria had grown up in a small Apache community where the desert stretched endlessly in every direction, and the mountains stood like silent watchers over the land. She knew the stories of her people, the struggles and joys passed down through generations, and the pride that came with being part of a heritage that had survived so much. But despite all this, Maria often felt a sense of loneliness that seemed to follow her everywhere. She had always hoped for love, for someone who would stay by her side, yet life had shown her that people could leave just as quickly as they arrived. In her early 20s, Maria had already experienced more heartbreak than many people would in a lifetime. There had been men who promised her the world, who spoke in gentle tones and made her feel special for a short while, only to disappear when life became difficult or when someone else caught their attention. Each time she told herself she would be stronger, that she would not let herself get hurt again. Yet the emptiness in her heart refused to disappear. She longed for a connection that was real, for someone who would see her, not just the life she led or the traditions she carried. One late morning, Maria went to the local trading post, a small building with wooden walls and the smell of fresh bread and coffee that always seemed to greet her. She liked the trading post because it felt like the center of her little world, a place where people gathered to exchange news, goods, and stories. Today, she was there to pick up supplies for her mother, who had asked her to bring home flour and some dried beans. As she walked through the aisles, her fingers brushed against the colorful blankets and handmade pottery, each piece holding the story of someone's life and effort. It was there, among the quiet chatter and the scent of herbs, that she first noticed Tom. He was a rancher from a nearby valley, a man in his 40s with the kind of presence that made people feel at ease without him saying much at all. He was tall, with strong hands and a calm expression that carried years of experience. Unlike others who had entered her life, he did not try to impress her with words or flashy gestures. Instead, he moved with ease and confidence, observing the world around him, and when he looked at Maria, there was a sense of respect in his gaze. Their first interaction was simple. Maria had accidentally dropped a jar of coffee beans, and Tom quickly bent down to help her pick them up. His hands were rough but careful, and when he handed her the jar, he smiled gently. "Here, you've got a lot to carry," he said, his voice low and steady. Maria felt a flicker of warmth in her chest, a small spark she had not felt in a long time. She smiled back, a little shyly, and thanked him. Over the next few weeks, Maria began to notice Tom at the trading post more often. Sometimes he was buying supplies for his ranch, other times he seemed to linger, listening to the conversations around him, quietly observing. He never forced conversation, but when he did speak to Maria, it was always with genuine interest. He asked about her day, her family, and even about the stories her grandmother used to tell her. Maria found herself opening up in ways she had not with anyone else. There was a patience in him that felt safe, a calmness that seemed to understand her cautious heart. Despite the growing connection, Maria remained hesitant. She remembered all the men who had left her before, the promises broken and the dreams shattered. Each time she thought of Tom, part of her wanted to trust him, while another part warned her to protect her heart. She wondered if he could be different, or if she was simply setting herself up for disappointment again. Every evening she replayed their conversations in her mind, analyzing his words, looking for any sign that he might not be sincere. But with each thought, she felt a strange hope growing, one she had almost forgotten existed. Tom, for his part, did not rush her. He seemed to understand that trust could not be demanded or forced. Instead, he showed his care through small actions. He helped her carry heavy baskets, asked about her family, and remembered little details she mentioned, like her favorite tea or the stories she loved to hear from her grandmother. Maria began to feel something she hadn't felt in years, a sense of being seen and appreciated for who she truly was. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Tom asked Maria if she would take a walk with him. She hesitated but felt drawn to the idea, curious about where this simple invitation might lead. They walked along a dirt path that led to a small creek, the water sparkling in the fading light. They spoke about simple things, the changing seasons, the animals they saw, and the land they both cared about. There was no rush, no pressure, just the quiet company of two people beginning to understand each other. During their walk, Maria shared more about her past, the relationships that had hurt her, and the fears that had grown inside her. She told him how other men had left her, how she sometimes wondered if she would ever find someone who would stay. Tom listened without interruption, nodding thoughtfully, never judging, never offering empty reassurances. When she finished, he simply said, "I hear you, and I'm not going anywhere today. We'll take this one step at a time." His words were simple, but they carried weight. For the first time in years, Maria felt a sliver of hope that perhaps she could believe in someone again. As the days turned into weeks, Maria and Tom continued to spend time together. He introduced her to aspects of ranch life she had never experienced, teaching her how to care for the animals and maintain the land. She, in turn, shared her Apache heritage, telling him stories, showing him the importance of the traditions that shaped her life. Slowly, a bond formed between them, one built not on grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but on trust, respect, and understanding. Yet, Maria's heart remained cautious. She knew that love required more than feelings. It required patience, effort, and a willingness to face life's challenges together. She wondered if she could truly let someone in after all the pain she had endured. Every time she looked at Tom, she felt torn between the desire to trust and the instinct to protect herself. But there was something in him, a steady presence, that whispered that perhaps, just perhaps, this time could be different. The trading post continued to be their meeting place, a space where they could talk, share stories, and slowly grow closer. People in the community began to notice their friendship, some curious, others skeptical. But Maria no longer cared as much about what others thought. She was beginning to see that her heart might be capable of healing, that the past did not have to dictate the future. One evening, as they watched the sun set behind the mountains, Tom turned to Maria and said, "I know you've been hurt before. I can't erase that, but I want you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to take the time to prove that I'm different." Maria felt tears prick her eyes, a mixture of relief, hope, and something she hadn't felt in a long time: trust. She nodded quietly, realizing that the first step toward a new life was not to forget the past, but to believe that she deserved better. By the time the stars filled the sky, Maria felt a sense of calm she had not known in years. The loneliness that had followed her for so long seemed to lift just a little, replaced by a quiet anticipation of what might come next. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a life where someone could stay by her side, someone who would see her, respect her, and walk with her through the challenges ahead. Maria did not know exactly what the future held, but she knew one thing clearly: meeting Tom had changed something inside her. For the first time in a long while, she felt a cautious but real hope that love, trust, and companionship could exist beyond the disappointments of her past. And with that hope, she began to take the first careful steps toward opening her heart again. After the first few weeks of spending time together, Maria began to notice something changing within herself. The cautious walls she had built around her heart were slowly cracking, letting in feelings she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Each conversation with Tom left her with a mix of hope and fear. Hope because he treated her differently than anyone else had, and fear because she knew how easy it was for people to leave once things became difficult. She reminded herself constantly to be careful, yet she could not help but be drawn to his quiet strength. Tom, on the other hand, seemed to understand her hesitations without needing to be told. He never rushed her or asked for more than she was willing to give. Instead, he showed patience in the simplest ways, remembering what she liked, listening when she spoke about her past, and gently guiding her into new experiences without pressure. Sometimes he would simply walk beside her in silence, letting her thoughts and emotions unfold naturally. It was these quiet moments that made Maria feel safe more than any words ever could. But even with this safety, the memories of past heartbreak lingered. Maria often thought about the men who had left her, how they had spoken with promises that later turned into emptiness. She remembered nights crying herself to sleep, wondering if she would ever find someone who truly cared. Tom was different, she told herself, yet the fear of repeating history still tugged at her heart. Every time she smiled at him or laughed at one of his jokes, she felt a pang of anxiety, as if she was waiting for the other shoe to drop. One day, Maria confided in her grandmother about Tom. Her grandmother was a wise woman, full of the old stories and the lessons of generations, and she had always been Maria's guide in matters of the heart and life. Sitting together in the small kitchen of their family home, with the smell of cornmeal and herbs filling the air, Maria spoke hesitantly.
"Grandmother," she said, "there's a man."
"He's kind, and he listens, but I'm afraid. I've been hurt before, and I don't want it to happen again." Her grandmother listened carefully, nodding as Maria spoke. Then she spoke in her soft, steady voice. "Maria, your heart is like the land. It has been dry and hard, but that does not mean it cannot grow flowers again. You have been hurt, yes, but that does not mean all people will leave. Sometimes you must take small steps, carefully, and let trust grow like a plant. If he is patient, if he respects you, then you may find something true, but you must also be honest with yourself about your feelings." Maria thought about her grandmother's words as she walked home that evening. She realized that she had been holding herself back from the possibility of happiness because of fear. The past had shaped her, yes, but it did not have to control her future. Tom had shown her patience, respect, and understanding, the very things she had longed for but never received. She began to feel a small spark of courage, a willingness to let herself feel without expecting the worst. In the following days, Maria and Tom continued to meet at the trading post, each meeting slowly strengthening the bond between them. Tom began to share stories of his life as a rancher, the challenges he faced caring for his land and animals, and the lessons he had learned from years of hard work. Maria listened with interest, sometimes asking questions, sometimes simply observing the way he spoke with honesty and humility. She admired the way he took responsibility for his life and the calm way he handled difficulties. Tom also asked about Maria's experiences, not just the happy ones, but the painful ones as well. She found herself sharing memories she had kept locked away, about relationships that had failed, moments when she had felt abandoned or unloved. Tom did not react with judgment or pity. He simply listened, acknowledging her pain and validating her feelings. "I understand why you feel that way," he would say. "It makes sense. But you don't have to carry that weight alone anymore." His words were simple, but they carried a truth that Maria had not heard in a long time. Despite the growing closeness, Maria struggled with her own doubts. There were nights when she lay awake, replaying past hurts in her mind, wondering if she was being naive to trust again. She worried that she might be giving her heart to someone who could leave just as easily as the others. But then she would remember the small acts of care Tom showed, the way he remembered her favorite tea, the way he helped without being asked, the way he truly listened. Each gesture chipped away at the fear inside her, making room for trust. One afternoon, Tom invited Maria to visit his ranch. She was hesitant at first, unsure if leaving the familiar world of her community was wise. But curiosity and a quiet desire to see more of his life pushed her forward. As she arrived, she was greeted by the sight of wide-open fields, cattle grazing in the distance, and the gentle hum of nature surrounding the ranch. It was a world different from hers, yet peaceful and inviting. Tom showed her around, explaining the daily tasks, introducing her to the animals, and teaching her how to help with small chores. Maria found herself enjoying the rhythm of ranch life, the hard work mixed with moments of quiet beauty. During their time at the ranch, Maria saw another side of Tom. He was patient, hardworking, and careful, not only with the land and animals, but also with her feelings. He never demanded more than she was willing to give, and he respected her boundaries. Maria realized that she had rarely met someone who treated her with such genuine care and attention. It was different from the past. It was steady, consistent, and reliable, the kind of presence she had longed for but never known. As the sun began to set over the ranch, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Maria and Tom sat together on a wooden fence. They watched the cattle move slowly across the fields, listening to the quiet sounds of the evening. Maria felt a sense of calm she hadn't known in years. She realized that for the first time she was beginning to trust someone fully, not because she had to, but because he had shown her that trust could be given safely. The growing bond between them did not go unnoticed. Some people in the community whispered, curious or skeptical about the friendship between the Apache girl and the rancher. But Maria stopped worrying about their opinions. She knew her heart, and she could feel the difference in Tom's actions and intentions. She had experienced enough to see that this relationship was built on understanding, not on empty promises. Slowly, she began to believe that perhaps happiness was possible, even after disappointment. Despite the peace she felt, Maria's past fears did not vanish entirely. There were moments when doubts crept in, when she questioned whether she was making the right choice or whether she was rushing into something she could regret. But each time, Tom's presence reassured her. He did not push her or demand explanations. He simply offered patience, a listening ear, and consistent care. Maria began to understand that love was not about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but about reliability, respect, and shared understanding. One evening, as they watched the stars appear in the darkening sky, Maria spoke quietly, "I've been hurt before, many times. I don't know if I can ever be sure, but being with you feels different. I feel like I can start to trust again." Tom smiled, reaching out to take her hand gently. "Maria," he said, "I'm not here to hurt you. I can't change the past, but I can promise that I'll do my best every day to be someone you can rely on. Let's take this slowly, together." Maria felt a warmth in her chest, a mix of relief and hope. For the first time in years, she felt that it was possible to imagine a future with someone who would stay, someone who would see her not as a fleeting presence, but as a person worthy of care and respect. She realized that moving forward required courage, but she also understood that she didn't have to face life alone. As the weeks turned into months, their bond grew stronger. Maria began to see that her fears, though real, did not have to control her. She allowed herself to enjoy small moments of joy, to laugh freely, and to share her thoughts without fear of judgment. Tom continued to show patience, understanding, and care, proving that the connection they shared was genuine. Slowly, Maria's heart began to heal, the past still there but no longer defining her present. By the time spring arrived, Maria felt a sense of possibility she had not felt in years. She had taken steps to open her heart, to trust, and to accept the kindness and sincerity of another person. Though she knew that challenges would come, she was ready to face them, not with fear but with hope and the knowledge that she had found someone who would walk with her through life's uncertainties. After months of slowly building trust and understanding, Maria faced a decision she had been quietly avoiding. Tom had invited her to move to his ranch, to live with him and share life more closely. The thought was both exciting and frightening. For the first time in her life, Maria had someone she trusted completely, someone who made her feel safe and valued. But leaving the reservation, leaving her family and the only home she had ever known was no small thing. Doubts and fears crowded her mind as she tried to imagine what life would be like outside the world she had always known. She spent long nights thinking about her choice, walking along the dusty paths near her home, the wind carrying the scent of sage and earth. She remembered the men who had left her before, the empty promises, the heartbreak, and the loneliness. Could she really trust that this time would be different? And yet, when she remembered Tom, his patience, his quiet strength, the way he genuinely listened, she felt a spark of hope she had not felt in years. For the first time, she considered that life could hold something better, something real. Maria knew that making this choice would not only affect her life, but also her family. She thought about how her mother and grandmother might react. Would they understand that she was moving to a new place with a man she had come to trust? Would they worry for her safety, as they always had when she had been hurt in the past? But deep down, Maria also knew that this was a step she needed to take for herself. She could no longer let fear dictate her future. One morning, she finally decided to talk to her grandmother. The wise woman was sitting outside, her hands weaving a small basket, her eyes calm and observant. Maria took a deep breath and sat beside her. "Grandmother," she began, "I've been thinking. Tom has asked me to live with him at his ranch. I don't know if I can do it, but I think I want to try. What do you think?" Her grandmother looked at her with a mixture of concern and understanding. "Maria," she said slowly, "moving to the ranch is a big change. It will not be easy. You will leave behind the land you know, your family, and the people who have always been near. But if your heart tells you this is right, if this man has shown you respect, patience, and care, then perhaps it is time to step forward. Life requires courage, and love sometimes asks us to take risks." Her words settled in Maria's mind. Today, she realized that her heart had been waiting for this moment, waiting for someone who could show her a steady, reliable love. The fear was still there, but it no longer felt like a wall preventing her from moving forward. Instead, it was a reminder to be careful, to take things slowly, and to trust her instincts. After speaking with her grandmother, Maria felt more resolved. She visited Tom at the ranch to discuss the possibility of moving in. He welcomed her warmly, as if he had been expecting this conversation. They walked through the fields together, the air filled with the sounds of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. Tom spoke softly. "Maria, I want you to feel comfortable, not pressured. If you decide to come, we will take this step together. If you are unsure, that is okay too. The choice is yours." Maria appreciated his patience and honesty. She realized that unlike the others who had hurt her in the past, Tom was not trying to manipulate her or rush her. He was giving her the space to make her own decision, respecting her feelings every step of the way. This alone made her feel more secure, more willing to take the leap. Over the next few weeks, Maria began preparing for the move. She packed her belongings carefully, choosing the items that reminded her of home and her heritage. She thought about the stories her grandmother had told her, the lessons her mother had taught her, and the life she had lived on the reservation. Everything was changing, yet she felt a quiet excitement about the new experiences that awaited her at the ranch. The day of the move arrived bright and clear with the sun shining over the mountains. Maria felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation as she loaded her belongings into the wagon that would take her to Tom's ranch. Her family gathered to see her off, offering hugs, advice, and silent support. Her grandmother whispered, "Remember, Maria, you carry your roots with you wherever you go. Trust yourself and trust him, and you will find your way." The journey to the ranch was longer than Maria expected. Winding through dusty roads and open fields, she watched the landscape change around her. The familiar desert giving way to rolling hills, wide pastures, and the distant mountains that framed Tom's land. With each passing mile, her excitement grew, mingled with a quiet apprehension about the unknown. When they arrived at the ranch, Maria was struck by its beauty. The land stretched far and wide, dotted with grazing cattle, sturdy barns, and wide-open spaces that seemed to promise freedom and new beginnings. Tom helped her carry her belongings inside the small but welcoming house, his calm presence a steady reassurance amid the whirlwind of change. The first days at the ranch were filled with adjustment. Maria learned the routines of ranch life, feeding the animals, checking fences, collecting firewood, and helping with daily chores. It was hard work, but it brought a sense of purpose and satisfaction she had never experienced before. She discovered a rhythm in the life, a connection to the land, and a respect for the effort it took to care for it. Tom guided her gently, showing patience as she learned the new tasks, never criticizing but offering support and encouragement. At night, they would sit together on the porch, watching the stars fill the sky. Maria shared stories from her childhood, tales of the reservation, and memories of her family. Tom listened attentively, sometimes asking questions, sometimes simply absorbing the stories. In these quiet moments, Maria felt a deep sense of belonging. She was far from the home she had always known, yet she felt welcomed, safe, and valued in this new life. Even with the growing comfort, Maria still faced moments of doubt. She sometimes worried about whether she had made the right choice, whether she could truly adapt to life on the ranch, and whether her heart could fully heal from past hurts. But each time she felt fear creeping in. She reminded herself of Tom's steady presence and the trust that had built between them. Slowly, her confidence grew, and the doubts became smaller, less overwhelming. One afternoon, while working together in the fields, Tom spoke to Maria about the future. "Life on the ranch is not always easy," he said. "There will be challenges, hard days, and moments when we must rely on each other more than ever. But I want you to know that I am committed to this, to you, and to building a life together. If you are willing, we will face everything as a team." Maria felt a warmth in her heart, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and hope. She realized that moving to the ranch had been more than a physical journey. It had been an emotional leap, a decision to trust, to allow herself to love again, and to believe that stability and companionship were possible. She looked at Tom and nodded, feeling the weight of the past slowly lift, replaced by the promise of a shared future. The days turned into weeks, and Maria began to truly settle into life at the ranch. She found joy in small victories, successfully caring for a newborn calf, learning how to repair a fence, or preparing a meal for both of them after a long day. Each accomplishment, no matter how small, gave her a sense of independence and confidence. She discovered that she was capable of adapting, learning, and thriving in a world that had once seemed foreign. Tom continued to show his care through small, meaningful gestures. He made sure she felt included in decisions about the ranch, respected her opinions, and never dismissed her ideas. Maria realized that this kind of partnership, built on mutual respect and understanding, was rare. She began to see that love was not only about feelings, but about actions, about the consistent choice to support and uplift each other every day. One evening, as they sat together watching the sun dip behind the hills, Maria spoke softly. "I was afraid," she admitted. "I didn't know if I could trust anyone again. But being here, with you, I feel like I can finally believe in something real." Tom took her hand gently. "Maria," he said, "I'm grateful that you chose to trust me. I can't erase the past, but I can promise that we will face the future together, one day at a time." Maria felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief and happiness. She realized that the fear and uncertainty she had carried for so long had begun to fade, replaced by a sense of security, love, and possibility. She had taken a risk, left her comfort zone, and allowed herself to embrace a new life, and it was proving to be worth it. By the time spring turned to summer, Maria had fully settled into ranch life. She no longer felt like an outsider, but like a partner, contributing, learning, and sharing a life with someone she trusted completely. She knew challenges would come, as they always did in life, but she also knew that she was not facing them alone. With Tom by her side, she felt capable, strong, and ready to embrace the future. Years had passed since Maria made the life-changing decision to move to Tom's ranch. What had started as cautious trust and tentative hope had grown into a life filled with shared responsibilities, laughter, and companionship. The early days of nervous excitement and adjustment seemed far away now, replaced by the rhythms of a life built together. Maria often thought back to the moment she had first decided to leave the reservation, realizing that the leap of faith she had taken had shaped every part of the life she now cherished. The ranch had become more than just a home. It had become a space of connection, growth, and belonging. Each morning, Maria would rise early, the sun spilling gold over the hills, and start her day tending to the animals and chores alongside Tom. They worked together seamlessly, a partnership formed through shared effort and understanding. The cows needed feeding, the fences required attention, and the fields demanded care, but together they managed it all, and in that labor, Maria found a sense of purpose she had never felt before. Life on the ranch was not without challenges. Harsh weather, unpredictable livestock, and the occasional injury tested their patience and resilience. There were days when the heat of the sun or the cold of early mornings made Maria question whether she could continue. But she never faced these hardships alone. Tom's steady presence, his calm voice, and his careful guidance reminded her that together they could overcome anything. The challenges became opportunities for growth, and each obstacle they faced strengthened their bond. Maria's relationship with Tom had deepened in ways she had never imagined. The early conversations, filled with tentative trust, had evolved into a partnership rooted in mutual respect, love, and understanding. Tom had learned to embrace Maria's Apache heritage, listening to her stories, participating in family traditions when she shared them, and always showing appreciation for her culture. Maria, in turn, had learned about the rhythms and responsibilities of ranch life, adapting and thriving in ways she had never expected. They had built a life that was neither perfect nor easy, but it was theirs, authentic, steady, and full of care. The community, which had once watched them with curiosity or skepticism, began to recognize the genuine nature of their relationship. People saw the way Tom treated Maria with respect, the way Maria contributed meaningfully to the ranch, and the quiet but powerful connection between them. Over time, whispers of doubt were replaced with acknowledgement and even admiration. Maria realized that while the opinions of others could never dictate her happiness, it was rewarding to see their acceptance grow as they witnessed the truth of their bond. Maria also reflected on how far she had come personally. The fears and scars of past heartbreak, which had once felt so heavy, had transformed. They were no longer chains holding her back, but reminders of her resilience and strength. She had learned that trusting someone did not mean forgetting the past. It meant allowing herself to grow beyond it. Tom had not erased her pain, but he had given her the space to heal, the patience to rebuild her confidence, and the love that proved stability and compassion were possible. Together, they had created small routines and traditions that brought joy and comfort. Saturday mornings were often spent baking bread or preparing meals together, the warm scent of dough and herbs filling the kitchen. Evenings were reserved for walks around the property, talking about the day, sharing dreams, or simply enjoying the quiet of the land around them. On holidays, Maria invited her family to the ranch, sharing meals, stories, and laughter. These moments of connection strengthened her sense of belonging and underscored how far she had come from the loneliness she had once felt. Through the years, Maria also discovered the joy of teaching and mentoring others. She often helped young women in her community, sharing lessons about courage, resilience, and the importance of trusting oneself. Her own journey, marked by heartbreak, cautious hope, and eventual fulfillment, became an example of perseverance. She spoke openly about the fear she had once carried and the steps she had taken to overcome it. Her story inspired others to believe that happiness and genuine companionship were worth pursuing, even after disappointment. Tom, too, had grown alongside Maria. He had learned that love required more than just care for the land or animals. It required attentiveness to another person's heart and consistent effort to build trust. He often reflected on the early days when Maria had hesitated, wary of being hurt again. He realized that every small act of patience, every conversation filled with honesty, had played a role in creating the partnership they now enjoyed. The ranch was more than a workplace or a home. It had become a testament to the life they had built together, a life grounded in shared respect, understanding, and love. Over time, Maria's connection to her Apache heritage remained a central part of her life. She never forgot the stories of her ancestors or the lessons taught by her grandmother. She continued to honor the traditions she had grown up with, integrating them into her daily life and teaching them to Tom, who embraced them with curiosity and respect. In blending their worlds, Apache heritage and ranch life, they created a household that was rich in culture, understanding, and mutual appreciation. There were quiet moments, too, when Maria reflected on her journey alone, sitting on the porch as the sun set behind the hills. She thought about the men who had left her, the heartbreaks that had once defined her, and the fear that had held her back. And yet, she felt gratitude for the lessons those experiences had taught her. Without them, she might not have recognized the difference when someone truly deserving entered her life. Her past had shaped her, but it had not controlled her. She had chosen her path, taken risks, and embraced love again, and in doing so, she had found fulfillment. One evening, as they sat side by side on the porch, Tom took Maria's hand and spoke softly. "Maria, we've built something special here. Life has challenges, yes, but I wouldn't want to face them with anyone else. You've made this place a home, and you've made my life better in ways I can't always put into words." Maria squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of his sincerity. "Tom," she replied, "I never imagined I could feel this way again. I was hurt so many times, but with you, I've learned that trust and love are possible. I feel at peace, knowing that we're in this life together. The sense of peace Maria felt was not a fleeting happiness, but a deep, enduring contentment. She had learned that love was not only about romance or passion, it was about companionship, trust, mutual respect, and shared growth. It was about being present for one another in both the easy days and the difficult ones. In this understanding, Maria found a sense of fulfillment she had never known before. Over the years, the ranch continued to thrive under their care. The animals flourished, the land remained productive, and the home they had built together became a place of warmth and welcome. Friends and family visited often, bringing laughter and stories, and the sense of community strengthened. Maria and Tom continued to support each other, celebrating successes, learning from mistakes, and embracing the journey of life together. Their relationship, once tentative and uncertain, had grown into a partnership built on foundation of trust, patience, and love. As Maria reflected on her journey, she realized that life had brought her to this point through a combination of resilience, courage, and the willingness to take risks. She had learned to embrace change, to face fear with careful determination, and to allow herself to trust again. Tom had been the steady presence that helped her navigate the uncertainties of life, but the strength to take the leap had come from within her. Together, they had created a life that was meaningful, stable, and full of love. In the quiet evenings, as they watched the stars emerge in the dark sky, Maria often thought about how far she had come. She remembered the days of loneliness and heartbreak, the fear of trusting again, and the courage it had taken to move to the ranch. And now, as she sat beside Tom, feeling the warmth of his hand in hers, she realized that all those experiences had led her to this moment, one of fulfillment, peace, and true companionship. Maria had learned that life was not about avoiding pain, but about taking the chances that allowed happiness to enter. She had learned that love required patience, understanding, and consistency. And she had learned that trusting another person, when done carefully and thoughtfully, could lead to a life richer than she had ever imagined. Her heart, once guarded and wary, was now open, not blindly, but with the wisdom gained from experience. In the end, Maria realized that she had not only found love, but had also found herself. She had faced her fears, embraced change, and built a life with someone who respected, valued, and cared for her. The ranch, the animals, the land, and the life she shared with Tom became symbols of resilience, hope, and the possibilities that come when one chooses courage over fear. She had transformed her past into a foundation for the future, and in doing so, she discovered that true happiness was possible, even after heartbreak. Maria often thought back to the day she had first met Tom, the day he helped her pick up a jar of coffee beans at the trading post. That small, simple act had been the start of a journey that had changed her life. And as she looked around at the home they had built together, the thriving ranch, and the life they shared, she knew that it had been worth every fear, every doubt, and every step she had taken. Life had brought her to this place of peace and fulfillment, and she was grateful for the journey that had led her there.